Good morning, Tidy Mind community and Soul Strong watchers, whoever you may be. Today we are going to be starting lesson 4 of the Tidy and Relax Your Mind course. Thank you so much for joining me here today live, or if you are watching on the replay, I'm glad that you are here. So we are going to jump right in today to lesson 4. If you don't know where to find this course, you go to tidymind.teachable.com and you can either purchase the course. I did have a free, you can see the first 3 lessons for free. I'm also going through each of these lessons live on Instagram. These will also be published on YouTube if you follow me on YouTube at tidymind. So you can find this information on Instagram, on YouTube, and sometimes on Facebook. I'm not as good at posting there in the Tidy Mind group or the Angie Johnson coaching page. I kind of need to minimize it down to where I post so everybody knows where to find what they need to get the help that they need. I try to put it in many different places so that people who've never heard of me can kind of stumble upon it. Hey, Donnie, how are you doing this morning? But that is why I have so many different outlets. But I would like to just have one place that you can go and you know where to go. So YouTube is a very good source, and also here on Instagram. So let's get into this. At tidymind.teachable.com, we are talking about the Tidy and Relax Your Mind course. And we have been through lesson 1 through 3, and now we are on lesson 4. And it is called, How is Your Mind Reacting? So I know that, oh, thank you, Donnie. That's very sweet of you. So I know that a lot of 1 through this first week is kind of repeating itself. Hello, Anita. And that we are just getting to be aware of your mind. If you've never done a process like this, maybe you've been in therapy and you've been working on issues that come up and things that trigger you and things that cause you to go into anxiety or cause you to go into depression. But maybe you've not, or maybe you have done a lot of self-healing work and you've read a lot of self-help books. Wherever you are, it really doesn't matter. But what I want to teach you is that you can become aware of your mind and what it is doing, and separate out from that mind, and then have a choice at being able to care for this mind. This is kind of the first step in the process of being able to reach a point of more emotional stability in your life, and having a choice over how you react to life. If you feel like life is supporting you, if you feel like life is out to get you, we want to switch those things. So you do have a choice over how your mind is talking to you inside your head. And it starts with learning to care for it. So some of you have a real abusive relationship going on in there, and some of you are learning to have a more supportive relationship going on inside. So we all have that voice in the head, that voice of the mind that is talking to us. And it just takes turning around and looking at it and saying, whoa, like, what are you saying to me, and how are you causing emotional disturbance in my body? And what stories are you using to keep that emotional disturbance going on an ongoing basis? I wake up anxious, I go to bed anxious, I wake up sad and overwhelmed, I go to bed sad and overwhelmed. We want to be able to see what is the dialogue, what is happening inside here that is causing such pain and suffering and resistance. So in this first week, you are getting to understand your mind. And I've given you the analogy, and you can go on YouTube and you can do part 1, part 2, and part 3 of how to use the Tidy Mind process, or how to use the Tidy Mind house. I can't remember what it's called now. But you can go in there and I talk a lot about it. But let's go over the lesson, and then I'm going to kind of touch more on the house itself. Okay, because that's usually what people are interested in, because it's a different perspective. It's a different way of looking at the mind, a way that you can kind of one of my clients said, you kindergarten it down. It takes something that's really deep and complex, and many times on a very spiritual level of what we're talking about, but we want to take those difficult, deep, kind of hard to understand conversations that can be very vague, but how do I use that in my everyday life? I hear what you're saying, kind of, sort of, but I don't know how to apply that, and I don't know how to apply that and get better. I don't know how to apply that and improve myself. And that is what I'm wanting to do. So the Tidy Mind house is a visual that you can use to look and see what your mind is doing and learn how to understand your mind. So I'm just going to read through lesson 4, and then we're going to talk on whatever we feel like we need to talk about today. Okay, here we go. If you have it pulled up, you can follow along. If you have either subscribed to Soul Strong, which is $4.99 a month, you get this for free. Or if you bought the course, I think it's $47 right now. If you bought the course, you can follow along there too, or you can just listen here. Okay? How is your mind reacting? So step 1, and I always give you 3 steps each day. Step 1, we want to use this week's focus, and that is separating from DJ Judge, which is the voice in your head. Each day we are noticing feelings inside our bodies and writing them down in our boxes of feeling journal. So that's just a notebook. That's not something you purchase from me. Go out, get you a little notebook, and write my boxes of feelings journal. Why is it called a boxes of feelings? Because we're wanting to look at boxes that are stored in our basement or in our past room. And we're kind of organizing. It's kind of like when you organize a house, you gotta sort through everything. And Lord knows I'm doing that right now because I just moved. And you've got piles of sheets here and piles of pillows here, and you've got piles of kitchen stuff here. So what we're doing is we're taking an inventory of what is going on inside of your body as that voice in your head is talking to you. So we're noticing the feelings. So we wake up each day and we're like, and I always do a self check-in. Where am I? I don't always, a lot of people think, oh, well, to do this work, to get really good at it, I have to sit and dedicate an hour every day to meditation. And I think those practices are absolutely wonderful. I absolutely do. But do not let your mind tell you you have to do that or just forget it. The mind will make it very black and white, all or nothing. Well, if I don't sit and do it exactly right, or I don't even know what right is. Like, if I don't meditate in this certain way, or I don't go through this process, and I don't clear my space, just let's keep it very simple, and don't let your mind create obstacles and hurdles that you have to jump over first thing in the morning to be able to do this work. It's very simple. Wake up, ask yourself the question, where am I? What's going on? Not where am I physically, but where am I emotionally? What's going on inside of me? Let me do a check-in on myself emotionally. What's happening? Well, I feel calm, at ease, not really bothered about anything, concerned about anything. Okay, good. Go on about your day. There's no work to do. Okay? I don't want you going looking for things to be upset about. Your mind will do that for you, trust me. All I want you to do is just notice where you are. So maybe you woke up, and keep your little journal by your bed, your boxes of feelings. Like I said, we're gathering information here. So if you felt you woke up, and like I used to wake up back when I was in my 30s, all through my 30s, a lot of my 40s, I woke up in this state of dread and impending doom and anxiety, and I just didn't want to do it. Like, I just had no motivation, or it's like, really another day. There was no gratitude for the day. It was not like, oh yes, it's morning time. There was none of that. It was anything like that. It was like, I got to do this again. I'm so bored with life. I, yeah, my mentality was of such a negative nature. So if that is you, hey, that's okay. That does not mean you're a negative person. Your emotions do not define you, okay? An emotion is just an emotion. And we can begin to change those things and dig you out from under the pile that you're buried in, because I've been buried there myself. Okay, so wake up in the morning. What do I feel in my body? Well, there's anxiety. Do I know why? No, I don't know why. You don't have to know why at that point, okay? Don't worry about it. Just write down. Notice the feeling inside your body. Write it down in your boxes of feelings journal. Here it is. There's a piece that we're going to organize later, but I just need to check in. We're getting into the habit of checking in how we feel emotionally. Number 2, we're going to watch our language. So this is something that you'll do ongoing throughout the day. Not I think or I feel, but DJ or my mind. If you don't want to call it DJ, don't call it DJ. There is no right or wrong in this process either. Like if you want to give it a more quirky name than that or whatever, do that. It doesn't matter. Just know that it's the mind, it's the voice in the head, and later we start to refer to it as that inner child, okay? But just know what it is talking about. And then instead of, because this is how your mind keeps you connected to it, as you thinking you are those thoughts, you are those feelings, you are those reactions, that is what and who you are. That's not true. That is what your mind is thinking. That is what your mind is causing emotions to be stirred up in you. And yes, you're in there with it as a roommate, so you feel it too. But those emotions aren't you. Those thoughts aren't you. Those feelings aren't you. So when you're sitting around thinking, oh, I just don't feel good, my mind doesn't feel good. So catch it in that moment when it says I this or I that, and switch it to my mind doesn't feel good. Okay? My mind doesn't feel good. And that's okay. We're going to explore that with the mind later. Okay? And then when you're separated out, now you can have that conversation with that mind and talk to that mind and be like, what's going on? But you are fine over here. If you think you are mine, there's nobody in there caretaking. You're just suffering. But if you separate out, my mind is feeling this and feeling that and causing this emotion. Now you can separate out, and now you can have a conversation, and now you can start to work with that. Okay? Number 3, documenting DJs, the mind's reactions to feelings as they begin to flow out of the boxes in the closets. Okay? I use analogies of boxes and closets because we're talking about a tidy mind house. Don't get caught up in that or let that confuse you. It's just that we're organizing these feelings, and as feelings are floating around in the tidy mind house, how is your mind reacting to those feelings? And we talk about how, and we'll talk about that down here in step 2, but how the mind will it's fight or flight. It's going to argue with it, or it's going to run from it. It's going to deny it, or it's going to shut it out and run from it, and that is denying it. So that is the running part. Or it's going to fight or argue or resist that feeling that the mind is stirring up. Okay, so that's what it does. That is its reactions. So that's step 1, those 3 things I just mentioned. And then today's practice is to listen to part 3 of how to use the tidy mind. And you can find that on YouTube, and please subscribe while you're there. That helps me out a lot. And like the video if you don't mind. If you like it. If you don't, you can click the thumbs down. Listen to part 3 on how to use the tidy mind. So it's called Tidy Mind How To Part 3. That is free. You don't have to have the course to listen to that. That is public on YouTube. You can go listen to that after we hang up here. Step 2. Make room for peace or joy by tidying up and cleaning out the emotional clutter. Okay? So step 1, we're just getting up every day and we're just kind of noticing what's going on in our bodies. What's going on here? Then step 2. We're going to continue to notice feelings as they surface and write down the feeling throughout the day. Write down DJ Judge's reaction to the feeling that is floating through you. So say you're feeling sad or whatever, like you're feeling down, a heavier emotion, and that your mind is labeling as sadness. So your mind may, if it has an identity that it is really attached to because it's afraid of being a sad person or a negative person, it may be really attached to an identity of, I'm a happy person. I'm positive, I'm happy-go-lucky, I never get upset, I'm emotionally stable. Like, it may have that identity that it's really attached to. And if it feels sad, like if you identify sadness going through, your mind will probably deny that feeling. Does that make sense? Your mind will say, nah, I'm a happy person. So it's arguing. It's kind of doing both. Thank you so much, Mary. It's arguing with your mind. I mean, with itself. It is arguing with itself. No, I don't feel that. I don't feel that. I'm fine. I'm fine. You're not fine. Something is going on in there, and it's okay. It's okay that something's going on in there. And I know we get scared of what other minds, especially if we're not in a space where we have emotional stability. We try to hide that from people. Oh, don't let them see me fall apart right now. Don't let them see me stressed. Don't let them see me cry. Why? Because we're afraid of what the other minds will say about us. Will they call us crazy? Will they call us unstable? Will they call us, how will they perceive us? It's not safe. They may stop talking to me. They may think I'm too much. They may think I'm too intense. So we have all of these issues around feeling what we're feeling and being, especially for men, like especially as little boys. I know that in my generation would get shut down. They weren't allowed to cry. They were even called names for cries. Like, it's an emotion. It is a normal, natural part of being a human being. It doesn't mean you're crazy. It doesn't mean you're unstable. It doesn't define you at all. It just means you're having a human experience in that moment. And if we could all get out of our own minds and stop judging the other person for experiencing emotion, we would support them through that. We'd be like, oh, okay, well, let's get through this together. I had that last week. I know how that feels. Like, let's support each other in these things, okay? And not label each other or not judge each other and not put on this fake, I got a hair going crazy over here, not put on this fake facade of never having any emotions flow through us that are difficult or challenging. We do. And it's okay. Now, that can be, there's all kinds of levels of that. And that can be kind of extreme for some people or not as much for some people. And a lot of that does have to do with how many of these boxes you've released out of your basement. That's all that it is. It just means, it's just like if you walk into somebody's house and you're walking around and you're constantly stumping your toe on stuff and it's like there's stuff everywhere. It doesn't define that person. It just means they've not cleared all that stuff out. And there's probably a reason. They think they need that stuff. They think they need that emotion. They think they need that story. They think they need that feeling, right? And then they have a lot of emotions going on in there a lot of the times. And a lot of times if you've got a lot of emotional clutter and you're walking through there, it's going to get poked because you've not cleared that out. You've not seen that that's a lie that you believe in. That's a fear that you're housing inside your tidy mind house. And somebody walked through your tidy mind house and that stuff's all over the place because you've not let any of it go. They bump their toe on it and kick it on accident, and now an emotion is there's emotion everywhere. There's emotion all in the house now. And you're going to be reacting. You're going to get reactive off that emotion. Does that make you crazy? No, absolutely not. It means that you're holding on still to fear and a lot of emotional energy from the past, and it has piled up on you. Okay? It's just piled up. And then you find out about the tidy mind house and you're like, oh, like I could have been tossing some of that stuff out. I thought it was who I was. I didn't know I had a choice to let that go. I didn't know I could get rid of that. So I've been living with all this stuff. And I'm going to say something, but look, if you are on medication, there is no shame. I'm not judging that at all. I think there is a definite time and place for using medication for those chemical there's nothing about that. But a lot of times we are, instead of just looking at our stuff and letting our stuff go and realizing that doesn't define me, we attach a label on ourselves and then we use medications to numb that out. It's like, well, we could just look at our stuff here. And I'm saying, maybe I stepped in something there. I don't know. Maybe let me back out. Like I said, there's no absolute, I work in the psychiatric field as a nurse, and I do know there are situations where it is absolutely critical that medication is used. So I'm going to back out of that conversation right now. Anyway, there's stuff in there that we could toss out. And then when people walk through our world, our life, and they're not stumping their toe on all these boxes of stored emotions and pains and lies that we believe about ourselves, and nothing's being tossed up in the air that gets us all stirred up, we have less emotional activity. Okay, so there's levels of emotional activity depending on how cluttered up your tidy mind house is. Okay, that's the best way I can figure out to say that. So if you are at that point where you have a lot of emotional activity, meaning you're upset or you're angry or you've got a lot of emotional disturbance coming through quite often, all that would say to me is, hey, let's declutter. Hey, and I'm not talking about your physical house, although that actually is a side effect of when you start decluttering inwardly, is let's look at those emotions. And that is what we're doing. We're in this first week of the Tidy Mind process, we're looking at those things. And we're saying, well, what's in here with me? What are all these boxes surrounding me that people keep walking through and triggering, and now I'm off with my mind in emotional upset, and I've peeled off in the white van with my mind, and it's got me trapped in emotional suffering because this person said this and that person said that. What are all those things? Where did they come from? Why is my mind or my inner child so wounded about that thing? What lie did it believe about itself that caused it to stick? Your beliefs, when it sets up a belief, when that you have that story playing, DJ spins that record for you over and over and over and over and over, it builds a belief box. Okay, and there's a video that I did at some point this week in the middle of moving of how to build this belief box so you can actually see it out in front of you, so you can see what people are stumping their toes on in your world. but you can see it and you can look at it and then you can remove it. So when you have those thoughts, repetitive thoughts and repetitive stories over and over, and you believe it and believe it and believe it, it sets up a belief box, and there it is. So what we're doing is identifying those things that you believed in at some point in your life that were not true about you, and now it is causing issues, okay? And we're saying, let me look at that box. Let me open that box. Let me toss out all that stuff. And before I end this call today, I'm going to go over a practice that I use with my clients, if I have time, that really helps with that. So, now, number 1, figure it out. Want to label the feeling. Okay, these are the 3 reactions that your mind will have to when someone runs into one of your belief boxes and emotions are just flying all over the place. Your mind will, 1, want to figure it out, 2, panic, or 3, argue. And usually it's not arguing with itself, it argues with the person that stumped their toe on your emotional stuff, okay? They're just walking through your life experience, and they just happened to run into that box that you had in the floor because the path wasn't clear. And now you're having an emotional reaction with this person. And so, 1, figure it out. This is something that I would do. I wouldn't engage with the person who stomped their toe on my box. I didn't like conflict. Still don't. I'm better at it, though, than I used to be. I don't know if that's a side effect of getting better, but I'm much more confrontational. Maybe that comes with age. I don't know. But I'm more confrontational than I probably... Like, I will just say it. Like, hey, that's not cool. 1, figure it out. So your mind will want to pull you in, internalize, and analyze and process what just happened. And it will usually project. It will say, oh, well, it's because they are this or they are that, and they shouldn't have done this or done that, and let me analyze, well, what were they thinking, and what was I thinking, and what should I have said, or what should they have said, and we ruminate. And we just play the scenario of what happened in that situation over and over. We replay it for days. And we argue with the person over and over in our head, like we're having a debate. We're having an ongoing dialogue with that person. How crazy is that? But we all do it. Like with that person, and they're gone. They're long gone. They're no longer in your tidy mind house. They're doing other things, but yet you're still stuck there. And the more you stay stuck there, the more emotions are flying out, and the more you're emotionally disturbed. And this is what I always did, like always. And I catch myself now and I say, that does not support my peace. I don't allow my mind to go into the analyzing and processing and figuring it out. So you'll want to label the feeling, make sense of it, find the cause or reason, and it has a very strong need to know to feel safe. So that was my major reaction that I would have. Number 2, panic. Become afraid of the feeling. Flight, panic, overreact, and want to run away. You may notice that, when you're having somebody does walk through your tidy mind house and stump their toe on one of your emotional boxes that you've got that stored there, and emotions start flying out, you become very afraid that now this is going to ruin that relationship or that connection or going to cause problems with you. So you'll have this kind of overreaction that almost frightens the other person to say anything else. It's like, maybe if I just, and I used to do this one too, maybe if I just act crazy, that will shut them down and they'll drop it because they'll realize that's not a place they want to go to with me, okay? Like you just panic, like you just freak out and you have this major overreaction. Maybe you slam doors, maybe you peel off in the car, maybe you whatever. But it says, what that is saying is, I don't have words and I don't even know what I'm feeling right now, but I need to show you a massive display of reaction to either punish you or shut you down for walking through my house and kicking that box, that I really just need to look at and unload and release it once and for all and be done with it. But instead, I'm going to just get mad at you and blame you for walking through my life and kicking that box that I should have dealt with a long time ago, but maybe I didn't know how. Maybe I didn't know I could. Maybe I didn't have the help. Maybe I didn't have the awareness. But now I do. Okay? So once you do, you kind of don't have that excuse anymore. I'm kind of enlightening you here. So, you know. All right, number 3, what could you do? Argue. Fight or deny the feeling. Fight, want to resist it, blame, attack you or someone else, or deny. So you're going to get in a massive argument. So instead of making a crazy display of insanity to scare the other person, to shut them down so that they just don't approach you about that thing anymore, you may actually attack them. And this is verbally, hopefully it's not physically. I mean, it can turn physical sometimes, but it's verbally in that, oh, well, you want to look at me and my stuff. I'm about to point out all the stuff in your tidy mind house that you do, and that, like, I'm going to turn the tables and I'm going to project. So I know you just kicked the box in my house because it's a mess, but instead of being like, oh, yeah, that's my stuff and I really need to look at that, I'm going to say, oh, no, not my stuff. You shouldn't even been in here in the first place. And now I'm not only going to tell you you shouldn't even have done that, you shouldn't have stumped your toe on that box in my tidy mind house. You should, stop doing this and being like this, and you're selfish. And now we're name calling, now we're attacking, now we're blaming, now we're shaming. Every bit of these things that I'm talking about, except for figuring it out, that internalizing it, that panic, I'm just going to act crazy and hope they go away, or that attacking, is to shut the other person down, is to stop them from, to make them move away from that box in your tidy mind house. Get away from it. Get away from that. That hurts. Every time you run into that, that hurts. So either get out of my life so I don't ever have to deal with that. But guess what? The universe loves you so much that if you don't deal with that box that's sitting there in the middle of the floor, that's the whole point of that person walking by and stumping their toe on it in the first place, was for you to look at it again. But instead, your mind convinced you, I'm going to attack, and I'm going to blame, and I'm going to name call, or I'm just going to act crazy, so they either never come around me again, or I shut them out in such a way that they don't walk through my tidy mind house. But you're going to get somebody else walking through. So just deal with it, okay? Just say, you know what? Okay, this is what was triggered in me, okay? And I don't know why yet, but I just know it's there. And I take full responsibility for this box sitting in the middle of the floor that people can't help but run into. They can't help it. Like, I've got it in such a place that, I mean, unless they're a super conscious person and they know, walk around that, don't poke that one, don't, and people do learn. They do learn how to navigate your tidy mind house. They're like, oh yeah, okay, be very careful what you say around this topic and that topic, because there's the box sitting in the middle of the kitchen, and I know it's inconvenient, and I know if she'd just move that box or get rid of it, we could just all relax, but she won't. She is holding on to that thing, that emotional pain and that victimhood of whatever happened for dear life. She's not going to get rid of it. So we're going to have to tiptoe around her tidy mind house and make sure we don't trigger that. Now, there are people out there, and you empaths are real good tiptoers around other people's tidy mind houses. There are people who will do that for you because I don't know if they just love you or they just want to avoid conflict, but there's love there. There's love there. They accept you and everything you're living with in your tidy mind house. They just do. And they're stable enough within themselves that they can walk around it. Okay? But how about let's just clean it up, and then those people in your life who stick with you, who actually do love you, and who who are still around even after the big overreactions, and they're still around even after the attacking and blaming and that fear response that you have, they're still there. They actually love you. So let's make it easier on them and you by just acknowledging that that's there. And they're trying not to poke it, but kind of sometimes it just happens. So let's all take responsibility for ourselves and let's do our work. Today we will add the step, help DJ relax. After you notice DJ's reaction and write it down, have the following conversation with your mind. And I'm just going to read this to you. I've not read this I wrote this 2 years ago. I hope it's still good. Okay. I know you are enter reaction, whatever reaction your mind is having, angry, upset, whatever. I know you are trying to figure this feeling out. I know you're arguing with this feeling. I know you're fighting this feeling. I know you're denying this feeling. I know you're panicked and freaking out over this feeling. It is just an emotion. It is just energy wanting to move through and out of your body. Right now, we can ignore the outer experience that caused this box to open and let this feeling flow through us. Right now, let's just notice the feeling and where we feel it in our body. We are going to sit with this feeling together. I'm going to protect you while it passes. Okay? So this will take practice and restraint, that when one of these boxes are kicked in your tidy mind house, that you catch yourself. I'm going to give you a good example. And I don't normally talk about things that happen in the world, or I try to keep it to your world, your personal world, your inner world, not our outer world. But sometimes our outer world gives us a really good example of how to be. Now, I'm not picking sides in this situation, but you got the Chris Rock and the Will Smith incident. Okay, I'm not picking sides. I don't, whatever. Like that's their emotional thing that was going on. But it was an emotional reaction. Okay, and on both sides, both were having an emotional reaction. They were reacting from what their mind was saying that they should or should not do in that moment. And for Chris Rock, he was able to. Now, normally when we're hit or threatened in that way, our normal reaction is, well, think about it. Like, think about how your mind would have had you react to that situation. But he was very quick to, his mind could have told him a lot of things to do in that moment. Okay? A lot. But what I witnessed was such control over that mind, and being able, because the mind is the ego, and the ego wants to prove itself, or it wants to put on the display and fight and make sure everybody knows that this is the kind of person that I am. Like, that's the ego. I did not see ego in what he did. It actually took a lot of strength to push that mind quickly out of the way And again, I'm not taking sides. This is an observation of what I witnessed him do with his mind. He was able to push that, and I'm imagining it was wanting to be reactive and wanting to be loud and or do whatever it would normally do, but he was like, whoop, nope, okay. And you can even said, well, you could hear him mumble something right after it happened. Oh, I could, something like that. But he stopped and he's like, oh, okay. Like he stopped himself immediately. Like that is control. That is being able to have control over that mind and not let it control your actions and reactions to situations. That was a highly charged emotional, like that could have really stirred up a lot of emotion. But he was able to keep that mind, keep on a leash and say, nope, not here, not now. We're going to sit with this. We're going to process this. We're not going to go there. And that takes incredible restraint and awareness. And I was really impressed by, now I'm not saying, what led up to that, if that was right or wrong. I'm not judging any of that. I'm just observing, wow, like most people probably would not have had that type of restraint over their mind in that moment to just pick right back up and go back into, and I didn't watch the show, I just heard about it like a couple of days later. Anyway, so that is what we're talking about. So as you do this practice, you get better at that. Like you don't have the knee-jerk reaction. You don't have the mind just possesses you in that moment and takes you over and says, you better defend this identity that I have, and you better prove this about me, and you better not like you're able to hold that fighter back, that mind that wants to fight or attack or whatever the three things, whatever it normally does, you're able to say, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, I'm the adult here, and I'm managing you, and you're not possessing me in this moment. I mean, that's a quick reaction. You have to be really grounded in your soul space and in your consciousness to be able to grab your mind that quickly and not let it possess you and control your actions and behaviors in a situation such as that. So, I was impressed by it, just by the reaction, not by whatever happened before that. Like, again, there's no sides here. It is energy wanting to move through. Now, okay, we read that. Sit with your eyes closed. Visualize DJ sitting close to you. You can put your arm around it. You may notice it still wants to fight or argue or panic or make sense out of it. If this happens, allow DJ time to have its say. Visualize yourself sitting and listening in a loving, non-judgmental way. When it is finished, say, now we're going to let this feeling in us pass. All that is necessary is to notice the feeling and not fear it, resist it, or make sense of it. Okay? Did you get those three things? We're just like, here it is. The feeling's already here. The mind already had the reaction inside. Maybe we didn't act on it, hopefully. But it had it enough to stir the emotion up. So now we're going to, the emotion's in here. So instead of storing it in a box and wrapping it up with a nice story to keep it sealed in, we're going to sit together and we're going to allow this feeling to pass. And we're not going to sit in judging the other person and what they should have done or not should have done. We're not going to argue with the other person in our head. We're going to drop that situation. We're going to step out of that situation. That's something else Chris did immediately. He dropped it. Like that was immediately in his past and behind him, and he looked immediately forward. Like, man, like most of us would have got so stuck in that moment that we couldn't even function in the present, in the now. He was able to hold his presence in what was happening right now, realizing, hey, I'm still on TV here. Hey, I'm still hosting a show here. Hey, I'm still responsible for this, this, and this. I have to leave that behind right now. Can't go there. Can't go there with my mind. So that's what you will be learning to do. And a lot of you, a situation happens and you get stuck in it for days and days. You never leave it behind. So what you're learning in this process in lesson 4 is to say, you know what? That happened. Look, mind, I need you to turn away from that situation and that person that you're angry at and look at me. Look at me, okay? You can be the Denzel to the Will. Like, look at me. Look at me. Like, come in here. Come to me. Leave that behind you. Leave that out of the way, please. Come, let's focus back inward, okay? Let's let this feeling pass. Let's get this anger up. Let's get whatever this is happening, this fear that's already stimulated in you. Let's breathe. Let's sit together. We're not going to analyze it. We're not going to judge it, ourselves, or the other person. It happened. We're going to step into full acceptance that we just had an emotional reaction that happened within our body, and it's okay. Okay? It happened. It's done. Come in here with me, and we're just going to breathe through, and we're going to release this and not store it. But what most of us do is we have the feeling, we don't care for our mind in that moment. Our mind it gets stuck in that moment in time. And it's arguing about what happened and processing what happened and analyzing what happened. And they should have done this or I should have done that. And maybe you turn on yourself. I shouldn't have. And you start punishing yourself with a lot of guilt and shame. Or maybe your mind turns on the other person. Or they should have, whatever. You come out of that moment. Come here, right here, in the present moment. Nothing is happening. We're not going to trap this emotion in our body. We're going to allow this to go. We're not going to build a belief box out of it, shove the emotion down in there, and wrap it up and seal it up with a bunch of stories that support it. And if you notice, and again, I'm not taking sides, but if you notice what Will Smith is a very typical thing that we do when we feel like we're in opposition with another person is we start recruiting. We start recruiting people to our side. That's a mind thing to do. Your mind will want to get people on its side. And so it pointed out, the people that he protected in the movie, and he's protecting this person, that person, and it's like we're on the same team. And he called Denzel D. It's just like you're on my side, like you're with me. So it's just like a division. That's what a mind will do in an argument. Anyway. So, all that is necessary is to notice the feeling and not fear it, resist it, or make sense of it. None of that matters. Sit with the eyes closed until you no longer can sense the feeling in your body. Remember, this work happens in the moment of upset. If there is no upset, carry on with life. This step is only to be done when DJ or your mind becomes upset over something. That is when you do this practice. The emotion has to be flowing through your body before it can be released. Life will bring you situations or people that walk through your tidy mind house and stump their toe that will open the door of that box or will open that box. You don't have to go looking for it. Like life will show it to you. People are walking through your experience and they will show you exactly what you have to let go of and what gets triggered. Okay? So, what I just said to you was, say you've not cleaned, you didn't know that box was there, okay? You've not cleaned it out, and somebody walks through your life experience and they do or say something that kicks that box, maybe on purpose. You do have button pushers out there who know exactly what your boxes are. They know your tidy mind house inside and out, and they come up in there and they turn them all upside down, just for the fun of watching you have a reaction so that they can then feel superior to you and call you crazy. You have those little elves or mischievous minds out there, and they're usually what we label narcissists. They'll do that on purpose. But most people who are in your life experience, it's not personal. They're not trying to. It's not a personal attack. They don't even know it's there. You didn't know it was there. None of you knew it was there until it got turned upside down. And so what I was just explaining to you in that process of sitting with DJ is when you didn't know the box was there, that person didn't know the box was there, somebody kicked that box, and out comes the emotion, okay? Out it comes, all right? So you can either be Will Smith and you can let your mind possess you, and you can go out there and fight and hit somebody because he was defending his identity. There was an identity of a protector. I'm a protector. And he wanted everybody who believed in that identity to be on his side, which is why people were cheers like, yeah, you're a protector against abuse. That was part of the story. I'm a protector against. So he was protecting that. His mind possessed him and said, we got to go defend our identity as protector. And I mean, that's a big one for men too. I mean, I get that. Again, not judging it, just analyzing it. Yeah. So you can do that, or you can be a Chris Rock, and when all that emotion is flying up in the air, you can say, "Oop, nope, we're going to deal with this together, me and you, mind, but we're not going to do this publicly. We're not going to do this right now. We're not going to retaliate." That is such soul strength. And I don't know Chris Rock. I've never really listened to his, I think he's funny, but I don't really know him, but I didn't know. You could see the strength and the restraint over that. So what I'm talking about is that you can react in those two ways, the self-restraint or let the mind possess you. So what I'm asking you to do is, if somebody kicks that box and the emotion is flying up in the air, to start to practice sitting with your mind, pulling it over to the side, pulling it out of the situation. Come over here and talk to me. And being the voice of reason. And if you can practice that and do that enough, and I'm sure Chris Rock has practiced that a lot, when you have moments like that, when you absolutely need to use that restraint, it comes naturally to you because you've already been practicing it. You already know what to do. Your mind already knows that I'm not possessing this one. This one is in control here. This one is in their soul. They are strong in their soul strength. And I'm not going to possess this person, no matter how much I want to go fight back or attack or say this ugly thing or make a joke out of it. They're not going to let me do that. And your mind knows that about you. Your mind knows that you, as your soul, are so grounded in your soul space that you are in charge. I have no idea how long I've been talking. Can somebody tell me? So, if you practice it, your mind gets to know. It knows you, what you'll tolerate, what you will do. It also begins to trust you that you're going to do the right thing for it. And it's also no longer concerned about those identities. For Will Smith's mind, his mind is still very attached. I'm not trying to judge, I promise. I'm just observing from a mental standpoint, attached to that identity of protector, the man, what we consider manly thing to do. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong in setting boundaries and when it is necessary. I think there's a time and a place for everything. So I'm almost at an hour. Thank you, Sarah. I think there's a time and a place for all kinds of reactions. But I'm just assessing why his mind made him what he was protecting in that moment. Anyway, I'll get off that topic. So, step 3, appreciate your tidying work by noticing moments of relief, contentment, and enjoyment. Today's practice, we have not yet released any boxes, so it may be too soon to notice moments of relief or contentment. If you're already noticing something new flowing around in you, write that down. If not, it's okay. This process takes as long as it takes. Honor whatever emotion is flowing through you. Today, take 10 minutes and listen to the following meditation. You can find this meditation on SoundCloud. I think my SoundCloud name is Angie J. And it's called Focus Within, Finding the Secret Chamber. So if you'd like to do that, just go to SoundCloud, go to Angie J, and you can even type in search Focus Within, Finding the Secret Chamber, or just join me on Soul Strong. I would absolutely love for you to do that. That is what we're practicing this year. All of this, this is what we're talking about, and we started back actually in 2021 in December, but we are taking this year and we're getting so grounded in our soul strength that we're releasing those boxes. But if a box is kicked because we didn't know it was still in there, we're able to put pause on that and say, you know what? I'm not going to attack this person for kicking that box. I'm not going to go defend some identity that my mind wants to attach to. I'm not going to do all that. I'm going to say, you know what? Okay, I take responsibility for whatever that was, whatever my part in that was, and I'm going to let that go. I'm going to let the emotion come and go right on past me. I'm going to stay present with it. And then when that has died down, when all the emotion is out, I'm going to go back and have a talk with my mind about why we've not released that box and see where it came from. Okay? So that's the whole purpose of this year in Soul Strong. If you want to join me on Soul Strong, you can go to tidymind.teachable.com. It's $4.99 a month. You get 3 whole courses for free, and you get all these videos that I make all the time, and you get the journal entries. Sometimes I will publish them publicly on my Soul Strong YouTube channel, but most of the time those are unlisted and just for the Soul Strong members. So I'd love to have you there, and we talk back and forth in the comments there. So I'd love to have you join us there if you're interested. Okay, that's lesson 4. I hope that helped. I hope I did not. I said a lot of things I don't normally avoid. I avoid those areas where there's controversy or, yeah. So I hopefully not. I meant no harm at all, and absolutely no judgment. And like I said, there is a time and a place for everything, and you know what's best for you, and you and your doctor know what's best for you. And I'm just like think of me as a supplement. Take it or leave it. Use it if it helps you. If it doesn't, don't let it offend you. If it offended you, there's a box. So let's start to release it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining me live, and thank you, Donnie. And I will see you next time. I may do another live later today. I did an article for Maria Shriver's Sunday paper that will be out, I think, in the morning, and I'd like to do a talk about that. So I may do one later today. Thanks, everybody. I moved, and I moved out of my house, and so maybe I can get settled down now. So thank you for joining me, and I will see y'all next time. Thank you, Faye.